I'll speak generally because I don't want to single out any particular organizations. But in general, what I feel there's a problem is that people are attempting to solve systematic problems with individual solutions. So when you listen to a lot of these organizations, or what I like to refer to as black talking heads, people like that are the people that most people listen to, that have the biggest microphone, they're not giving you a systemic solution to our collective problems. What'll happen is they'll give you like a rundown showing you how you're under social, economic, and political domination from the European. And then after they give you a history of how much you've been dominated going back years, hundreds of years to now and currently, and how on every level they control your life and your existence, when it comes to the solution part of it, they usually fall flat on their face or they face plant. Because then it becomes something like, well, after I told you how you can't win and they controlling you medically, they're controlling you socially, economically, in every aspect of this reality, then my solution is at the end, well, homeschool your children and grow some tomatoes. You just put the whole world into the lap of this person who's listening to this content and telling them how much of the forces are against them, and then you're basically telling them, all right, well, go out there and handle it on your own. Our solution is totally different. We want to solve these systemic problems with systemic solutions. And the only systemic solution, the no-brainer, is to have land, to have infrastructure, and to have an actual nation. Black folks need their own government. They need a base of operations in which they can operate from. Right now, currently, we're just a scattered group of individualists aligned by aesthetic similarities. So until we decide that we want to become a tangible, concrete thing, then we're going to just deal with these vague abstractions that most of these groups love being in, because when things are vague and abstract, there's no responsibility. You can't point to somebody and say that they're responsible for anything. You get a lot of self-appointed leadership.
That's when something's big. Is that when something's big, you're saying?
I'm sorry.
Are you saying when something is big, it's difficult to control?
No, it's not. The size really has nothing to do with it. It's the ideology. Like, I don't think this gets into. Yeah, I should get into this, because this is the basic crux and the reason why this organization exists in the first place. I feel that there's a lot of people who claim to be for black people, and they really don't care about black people. They're hustling black people. They're using a lot of black language and black aesthetics to get money from them, and they really have no goal, no future for black people. Like, that's why we always say, what's the end game? Where do you want to see your people in the future?
Now, that might be, people refer to that as what, self-hating?
It's self-hatred is a part of it, but it's even more sinister than that. Because when you have the ability to mobilize people, and black people are very eager to be led by something or be a part of a just cause. And black people have had their collective hearts broken by so many people because they get down with a cause, and then they find out that it really wasn't about the cause, it was about money. And so what that does is it makes people jaded, and it makes it that much harder for the next organization of people who are actually trying to organize our people to actually get any leverage or any headway, because the people whose hearts have been broken so much by people who didn't really care about it. And that's part of the problem why it's, with us is that we're taking the path of most resistance rather than the path of least resistance. And a lot of people think that's strange, but have you ever seen that movie, The Matrix?
Yeah.
You remember when Neo was talking to the architect, and the architect told him that he's been through this scenario 6 times before.
The architect? You mean the Oracle?
No, the architect. Oh, I'm speaking of part 2, I guess.
Okay, go on.
When you spoke to the architect.
Yes.
And he said, you can either go through that same door and the same thing will happen again, or you can go through a different door. The BAIO wants to go through the different door. And in order to do that, we have to go kind of against the grain of what people are used to. So what most black folks are used to is a charismatic leader, so we don't have a charismatic leader. As a matter of fact, we look at black people who want a charismatic leader sort of like a baby that wants to be picked up, a spoiled kid, and we refuse to pick them up. We want to make them walk. That's basically it. So we're taking the path of, because most people, the default is they want a leader. They want a charismatic leader that they can rally behind, and then they can sit back and watch the leader twist in the wind while he tries to fight the system that's, they're a part of. We have a totally different take on that.
Okay, just on that about what people want, because you were saying before that you didn't want to generalize, but then in a bit what you've said, you've quite generalized in saying, this is how leaders are, this is what people, those who black people out there who hate black people or work. I'm not saying that there's people out there who don't work against or are in the wrong positions. But with regard to like the foundation that you talk about and the building, yeah. So your organisation's now been going for like 2015, and I do believe you're doing and you're leading by example in that sense. So what now infrastructure as a base do you kind of like have, or do you start from, I don't know, creating a contact on the internet base? So do you have a nursery or a community centre? Where is the starting physical foundation?
I understand what you're saying, and we get that question a lot about. And I was teasing Otis because I said most of the questions we always get is where to land at, and I think it's a funny question because nation is not just about land. Land is a part of nation, but nationhood ultimately is people. And you cannot have a nation of people if you don't have a people with a common goal. So it's hard to get people online and then say, like, you have a bunch of people online and say, all right, we got some online people, now let's start a nation. It doesn't work that way. You have to first socialize, network, and get to know these people. And that's what we're in the process of doing right now. For the time, what we've been doing is having meet and greets in New York, meet and greets in Atlanta, meet and greets all over the country. And basically getting members to actually reach out and contact each other and congregate and socialize with each other. Because unless you're going to meet people and know people, you're not going to really do anything with people. Because you don't trust them, you don't know them.
You spoke about, and I had a conversation today actually with regard to with some young people, whatever, even younger than me, and they were talking about in our community here and some of the establishments that we have that are black owned, but yet they don't have, there seems like there's no legacy being built for the younger generation. And the younger generation are looking at some of these older generation and labelling them, saying that you're gatekeepers, you're stopping us from coming in, why are you doing that? Do you need some fresh blood in the area or into this kind of situation? Why are they doing that? And before, when you talked about some of these leaders who so-called seen that, they are like, I use the term self-haters. You have, is it Joy DeGruy that talks about the post-traumatic slave syndrome? How much of some of this behaviour of some of our elders, because many of them, especially here in the UK, who came over here to work, and just try and get something done. So how much does healing of, say, past traumas and things, because you've talked about why we are in the condition and a lot of that to do with, being the descendants of slaves. So where is the healing with regard to be IO, and again, how important is that in building this infrastructure?
Well, that is the utmost of importance. Actually, that right there is my main concern, and the main thing that I've been pushing is that network of people of like mind is the healing. You know what I mean? Because, and I can testify to this because on Facebook we have like created a group. I mean, Facebook is not the only place that we congregate, but I'm just using that as an example. We created a group text of BAIO members, and every morning the group members say hello to each other and talk to each other, and they get some fuel and some energy from people of like mind because they go out there and deal with people who have no desire to even engage in the things that we talk about. And a lot of times when you talk about nationhood, you get a lot of pushback and resistance, and that can be tiring, it can be frustrating. So it's good when you come around people of like mind and know that you have a safe haven that you can go to of people that support you and support those ideas that you believe in. So healing is the utmost of importance, because if you don't heal and you're not around a support system, you're not going to be able to do anything. Or you could, but it's going to be it's like, pushing a boulder uphill. Like I believe that if you have a strong support system, that helps you.
Okay, excellent. I just got a text that's come in. There's a word that I had never heard it before. Syllogism. Well, I think this was in reference when you mentioned the Matrix. It says syllogism. You can't start to build content with context in realism and then quote the Matrix. Do you get that?
No. What did they say?
You can't. It says syllogism, spelled SYLLOGISN, and it says you can't start to build content with context in realism and then quote the Matrix. A lot of these people who text in are much more clever than me.
And the point is what?
I don't know. It must be linked to the discussion that we were having at that time. I'll bring in the other guys. Question, Luke.
Greetings, brother. Hello. My name is.
I can barely hear you though.
Sorry, brother. Is that any better? Hello?
I can hear you, but it sounds like you're in the background.
Yeah, it's just the way how we set up over here. Anyway, greetings.
I'll try to make it out.
Greetings, and I hope everything's blessed with you. I'm one of the directors of T.A.P as well, along with my brother Otis and sister Angeli. And everything you've basically said for the last half an hour is similar to how T.A.P started, our organisation, the African Pot started. And a lot of the issues that you're talking about are the similar issues that we go through as we're trying to navigate through the system that we live in England. Slightly different, but it's the same European at the head of it.
Right.
So my question to you would be, within the organisation, because we've got a WhatsApp group as well where the same sort of thing, just saying good morning to each other, sometimes is enough to get you through your day. So my question would be to you is, it'd probably be a slightly bigger international organisation, how to organize, or how do you organize when, even though you're like-minded, there will obviously be people with different end goals, even though the end goal totally may be the same, but everyone's got their own personal different end goals, and how you bring those people together to get the holistic end goal, if that makes sense, and keeping everybody happy.
Well, the funny part is that our group, like within the BAIO itself, there really isn't, to my knowledge, any real bones of contention, because whenever we talk, we're really talking about the same thing. Like it's all centered around land, infrastructure, and nationhood. So we do a lot of we have a lot of STEM people in our group, and that within itself is a conversation, because they exchange the latest technology in regards to construction and building and laying down roads. I mean, it's like in our STEM group, it's so much material that you can get just from that alone, and that's just one aspect of it.
Yeah,
so we don't really spend a whole lot of time. Like there really isn't any bones of contention or anybody that's
when I say differences, that may be the wrong word or bone of contention. What I more mean than more directly is I've always been a advocate of repatriation and seeing Africa, like you said, as the hub for our freedom and our liberation as a people. If it's not there, then this talking about living in America, making it black, or vice versa, I can see with the 1 foot in, 1 foot out, maybe. But is there any people in the organization that don't see Africa as the hub, that still want to maybe set up things within America or wherever they are respectively?
I'll put it this way. If there is, they haven't let themselves be known.
Okay, that's cool. Because in just like in our conversation,
the vast majority of, as a matter of fact, it would be hard pressed to find somebody who would even join the BAIO if they weren't down with Africa. I don't see how it wouldn't be really comfortable for them.
And do you guys have a plan in place to one day move back as an organization, as a group of people?
I'm sorry, do we have a plan to what?
Do you have a sort of, is repatriation and moving back to Africa a part of the end goal in terms of, is that something that's been put in place?
Do you mean collectively or individually?
Yeah, collectively as an organization. So as an organization moving back to Africa, like what Marcus Garvey tried. Yeah, that's the end game.
That's the end game. But in the meantime, there are people that want to repatriate, like right now, and we don't discourage that. Like if you're an individual and you want to go, let's say, to Ghana, or you want to go to Nigeria, you want to go to whatever African country, you can do that right now. As a matter of fact, we encourage it because it puts more boots on the ground in that particular nation for us.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But ultimately, in terms of nationhood, like the BAIO is like, I've always considered it a means to an end. The means that is basically the formation of a government eventually. I'm not saying that we're ready for that now, but that's the beginning, like putting in the pieces to put that puzzle together is what we're doing right now.
I don't know whether
because government is what you need. We're tired of these self-help gurus trying to tell our black people what they need to do. It's like, we don't need an individual solution. We need a collective solution. When the Jews got reparations, yeah, it did go to some individual Jews, but it was distributed through their government, through the state of Israel, through the World Jewish Congress. They had an organized body that dealt with their reparations. In America, they're talking about just giving checks to people, which to me is just lunacy. And it also shows that people are not thinking about, can I give you an example?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was on a show and a brother was talking about reparations, and he says, I asked him, well, what's your end game? And he says, I want my check. And I said, well, why don't you get a lawyer and sue the United States government as an individual? And he was taken aback. He was like, why would I do that? It's like, this is about my people. I said, well, you didn't tell me you wanted, your people. You said, I want my check. You see what I'm saying? So it's like everybody, so you want to piggyback off the collective struggle of your people so you can get an individual check for yourself?
This is the way where that is, I suppose, just there, is it? You can't really be surprised at that.
No, not at all.
Yeah, even in the essence of, when we look, even if we have children and we look at our own children, all our children are different, are at different stages. You may have one that's the eldest, but the youngest one may seem to be more wiser than the eldest.
Right.
So you're going to have that in society, and if it's in society, it's going to be in all our groups, and then it's going to be compounded within the African diaspora because of these post-traumatic issues.
How many members do you think would need to fill the necessary departments to create our own government?
Well, let's see. They say there's approximately 45 to 50 million African Americans in America alone. We got nowhere near that. So I always said my estimates were always very meager, very humble. I said out of the 50 million black folks, I expect no more than 5% to be involved in the process of nationhood. Now, when I say that, I don't want people to think that I'm talking about a mass exodus over to the continent. This never works out that way. What I'm saying is, I think even less are going to be actively involved. They're going to be, out of that 5%, I say maybe 3% of them are going to be passively involved, meaning that they'd be willing to finance it and work from America and help with the nation state. I believe 2% is going to be the people that are actively involved, the people that are boots on the ground on the continent. So I have a very humble way of looking at this, because the vast majority of our people want to be Americans. They want to stay in America. And I'm not one, I don't want to fight with them. Because ultimately, the formation of a nation state is going to benefit them, whether they realize it or not.
It's like about that.
But it's going to be a small minority of people that do it.
Yeah, and it is that belief in, I suppose, seeing. Some people can't believe in things that they don't see with their physical eyes, isn't it?
Right.
Got another text in. Well, I got two texts. One says, and we may have passed this now, 377. It just said, just saying you can't ask a question with an answer. Just saying you can't. Was that me? 377. You'll have to clarify that. I probably do things like that.
I really wish that they would tell me what the point is that they're making, because then they're making it a lot easier for me to address it. I don't get where they're going with that.
Well, if I could interpret it, I would have done my best to do that for you. So I've asked them to clarify. I got another one. Says, hi, good evening. We have inherited post-traumatic stress disorder, and I love that the guest said just being part of the group promotes healing. That is so proper. Tell me more.
Well, I would suggest that you check out our website, which is BAIO Afrikstan AFR. Why am I'm drawing a blank?
Well, you can tell him we'll be right back.
AFRIKSTAN.org.
So welcome back, you're to the Search Engine Tap Talks meets Search Engine, and we're currently speaking to Holip all the way from New York, and he's been speaking to us and introducing us and building our awareness around BAIO. And just can you remind us of the website, Holip, and where people can go and find out more information, and if they are like-minded, like what they see, can get involved?
Yes, it's BAIO Afrikstan, which is AFRIKSTAN.org. BAIO Afrikstan.org. And Afrikstan is basically like just a placeholder name for the nation. Placeholder name. It's not etched in stone. It can be changed. It can be modified. But I felt like we were having a lot of silly arguments about the name when that's not really the relevant part. The relevant part is the nation. We can name it what we want to. But in the meantime, that's the placeholder.
Okay, excellent. Otis?
Yeah, so with the plans to go to Africa, probably will take a while to come to fruition. And I know the overall goal was to have the nation state on the motherland and then create satellite communities. So what I wanted to ask was, if you have enough members in a chapter, would it make sense to acquire a satellite community in the meantime before you're in a position to move to create a government within the nation state? Because recently I saw with Jay Morrison and the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, they was looking at the possibility of purchasing a town, which was only, I think it was $1.4 million, which was surprisingly cheap with so much things in place. Is that something that a lot of the members would want to do, do you think, or is it just
that was a town in Africa?
No, a town in America.
Okay.
I think I heard what he said. You're talking about the satellite communities in the States, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Compared to the base of operations on. See, I don't feel that any of that is in conflict with one another. Like, there are going to be people that want to engage in empowerment here in the States. I don't discourage them. I don't make fun of them. I think that, I actually support a lot of it. But for us, it's really simple. It's like, if somebody asks me, how do you make a dish? The first thing that you do before you even start talking about making a dish, you got to get the ingredients. And that's where we are. We have to get the ingredients together for us to make anything. And so we're taking it step by step. And right now, the phase that we're in, like I said, is the mustering stage. But by the time this stage is over, and it should be over soon, we'll know exactly how many people we have in each state and what they do. And at that particular point, that's when we start forming the organizing body for the BAIO. And that's where we are right now. We're taking it one step at a time.